This is the RZE Resolute Pro, the latest iteration of their field watch. And what you're looking at is a 40mm comfortable, lightweight titanium tool watch, powered by a high-beat Miyota and protected with a scratch-resistant coating. However, to fully understand this one, we really got to go back and talk about the original. So, story time. 3.5 years ago, the original Resolute came out. It was the brand's first watch, and it really put them on the map. It impressed me as well as a variety of other reviewers, mostly because there wasn't anything else quite like it. This was not a field watch that followed the same classic old formula. This was not a Hamilton khaki. And I was particularly taken with just how comfortable this lightweight titanium tool watch was on the wrist, as well as the lume and the depth of the original's very tooly design, especially with its all blasted finish. Now, a few years go by and RZE comes out with a second version, one that you could probably say is a more refined evolution. Gone was a simple bead blasted case and replaced with a brushed version that had a scratch resistant coating, which also contained a great optional H-link bracelet. The movement was also upgraded to a high-beat Miyota from a standard NH35, and perhaps the biggest and maybe most confusing change was to the dial design, which shifted to something a bit more Explorer-esque. More on that in a second. But now, RZE has come out with a third iteration, one that is a further refinement of the design, a more pro version as they put it. And as far as I know, this isn't replacing the second version. That one, or the non-pro version, will still be available. This is one with just a couple of nice upgrades over that. Hence, it's the Resolute Pro and not the Resolute 3. So, not a complete overhaul. And again, there are only a handful of changes to this over the non-pro version. And I should also point out that this was a prototype that was lent into the channel by RZE, so all your standard prototype warnings apply. Now, from what I can tell, the case is about the same, but it does come standard with that nice H-link bracelet. Which honestly, if you're going to buy a Resolute anyways, you should get that H-link bracelet. Great bracelet, love how it looks, and more importantly, how comfortable it is. At least on my 7.25-inch wrist. It's lightweight, well balanced, and the shorter, fully articulating links gently hug your wrists throughout the day. However, the Pro version is also getting an upgraded on-the-fly adjustable clasp, which for me is always a great thing when you're talking bracelets, as with the heat and humidity, my wrists can swell up a lot. And if you're talking about a watch that's, quote, assembled for adventure, having one you can easily adjust is key. Otherwise, you're not going to wear it if it doesn't fit right, or it's so tight you don't want to wear it. Anyway, while the case here is the same, the dial is where most of the upgrades take place, as it's now an enamel dial. So colors are going to be more cleaner and more vivid, and perhaps longer lasting over time. At least depending on the colorways, and I think there are currently 3 with more on the way. Along the same lines, the logo is now applied, adding just a little bit more depth, and this is something I definitely noticed on this yellow version. Typically, a yellow watch really isn't my thing. Not that I have anything against vibrant dials, it's just the yellow part of it. But I gotta say here that I liked how the hands, the indices, and the logo had a clear and distinct contrast with its framing. And I liked how everything just seemed to pop out against the bright dial. Although, that said, my personal pick out of the 3 would probably be the polar white version. That just seems more me. But back to the differences, and I think the biggest change here is to the dial design. Now, this is going to be a bit subjective, but for me, the change from the original to the second version was a huge negative for the design. I mean, people do love the Explorer type dial, and I imagine one of the complaints RZE got on the original is that it didn't look like a, quote, field watch, or at least one some people were used to. So I can completely understand the shift they made, thinking that this would lead to a wider acceptance. However, for me, and I talk about this in that review, this got rid of one of the most interesting and original aspects of the watch. To me, the change killed off a bit of its character, and removed some of the common design language that RZE has developed across its line over the years. Which I think has now been restored on this Pro version, as it seems to take elements from both the original and the second version and combines them into a good halfway point. Gone is the Explorer-esque 9, 3, and 6, and replaced with the original's bar indices. Yet, the triangle at the top, which helps orientate your eyes, the polished framing giving it a more refined look over the original, and the clean, highly symmetrical dateless design is kept here, giving you perhaps the best of both worlds. So, only a handful of changes here, but there are some important ones, and especially if you didn't like that Explorer like change. And as a side note, this is one of the things I love about doing this channel. That I've been doing this long enough that I got to see how this watch, as well as the brand, has evolved over time. It's one thing to look at pictures, but it's another to really see and feel how these minor changes affect the entire thing. Like I was saying, there's a handful of minor changes here, but I think overall this is a more refined evolution of the Resolute, as it maintains almost everything that was great about the original. The tooly nature, the lightweight comfort on the wrist, the original design aspect, the great loom, the durability, and it adds to that, giving it a better clasp and a crisp, more vibrant enamel dial. However, as you might expect, that Pro name and Pro upgrades also comes with a little bit of a Pro price. And this may be one of the few real sticking points of all this, and especially for those that remembered when the original Resolute came out. As one of the greatest things about it was its price. I think it was like right around or just under 350 US, and that was only 3.5 years ago, making it just an absolutely fantastic affordable watch. And over time, it's kind of priced itself out of that affordable category, or at least my definition of that. Which, to be fair, and if we're all being honest about all of this, has happened to most of the great micro brands out there over the last few years. Some of it's inflation, some of it's price creep, some of it is just the brands taking themselves more serious rather than just, say, a hobby. And some of it does come with upgrades and refinements as the brand and the designs have grown, which is more the case here. So this isn't really an isolated incident, it's more of just the state of the industry right now. In here, with its use of titanium, the scratch-resistant coating, the better movement, there is justification for all of this. And now with the further upgrades, there's an additional premium on top of those, ones I think also are justified. As the regular or the non-pro version is currently 529 US, and that is on a strap. Whereas with this Pro version, it's listed at 659 with a special pre-sale price of 629. So you're only looking at $100 to $130 difference. And honestly, that's going to be the bracelet just by itself. So considering that, the better clasp, the dial upgrades, it's not that bad to get the Pro version if you're already thinking about getting a Resolute. I mean, that'd definitely be the way I'd go. Although, as you might expect, the flip side to all of this is that this price point also comes with more competition. And there are a lot of great watches out there from other brands, micros and name brands that kind of fit into this price point. And when you're comparing everything, that's where things can get a little bit more tricky. As like I said, there's some great competition out there. And it's really just going to come down to what you want and what you value versus what's just a great deal. Bottom line, RZE has taken their great adventure-worthy field watch and made it better. I'm honestly not sure I'd call this a pro version, but it's definitely an upgraded version. And it's definitely worth your consideration if you're looking for an interesting field watch or a great travel watch. And I think that's one of the great things that sets RZE apart from other brands, a focus on making these great travel watches. A lot of people don't know this, but the main man behind RZE, Travis, is also a commercial airline pilot. And he's designed these with that in mind, that each of these would be a watch he'd want to wear on a daily basis as he's hopping around the globe. And from my own experiences traveling with them, I think it shows. Anyway, as usual, let me know your take on this down below. Or if you can think of a better travel watch, let me know that as well. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, hit something, do something down below. Helps the channel. I'm Shane, this is Relative Time, and I'll see you next time.